Hi, this is Elaine Glover, and the other week we had the unveiling of the blue plaque in Swanage. And this began a long time ago, to be honest. I was a radio presenter for Purbeck Coast Radio in Swanage with Lunchtime with Elaine, and I'd ask Edith Powney, who was there the other week. She read out Paul Walder's speech about his father and also about Trevor Chadwick. And I asked her to come on the radio because she presents the Holocaust Memorial in Wimborne Minster. And also I wanted to speak to Josephine Jackson because she knows a lot about Kindertransport, and she wanted to share with me about Alfred Battstorff. So anyway, I googled on the internet one day Swanage and the Holocaust, and it came up with Trevor Chadwick, and I just knew there was something. And we discovered that he was a teacher at Forest School and he took Latin. And just after Crystal Night, the night of the broken glass, everybody began to get very worried about what was going to happen next, because the Nazis smashed all the businesses in Berlin, burnt down synagogues, burnt down orphanages. Even though with the orphanages, I think there were children in them, I'm not quite sure. And so in this country, the government was talking and other countries were, and the government decided that we would take so many, I think it's 10,000 children who are mostly Jewish, and bring them into the country, and somebody in their family would have to be a guarantor for £50, which was a lot of money then, about £3,000 in the equivalent today. And people would pay that guarantee, or a family member would pay a guarantee. And then the children would go on a train and then come across the water, stop off at Harwich to Dovercourt, and that be a process centre for children, who they were going to go with, where they were going to go, and what's going to happen. And I was quite amazed, really. I didn't know anything about it. Funny enough, Councillor Trite found out, apparently, through looking in newspaper clippings. And anyway, I was doing research. Found Annie Bridger, who was Trevor's niece, and we met at Chocococo, which is like very much chocolate orientated cafe in Swanage. And we thought, yes, we need a statue or we need a plaque. And through that, we met Annie's friend, Moira Purver, who actually wanted to make the statue. And she'd been looking at Trevor and looking into his character. And, you know, she was really, at that time, wanting to do it. And so me and Annie went to the council with some family members of Annie and said that we would like a statue for Trevor for what he'd been doing, and that Moira Purver would be happy to make the statue. So they agreed, and later on they had a committee, and I made sure that my friend Josephine was on the committee because she was Jewish, and I thought that they really needed somebody Jewish on the committee because it was about Trevor Chadwick saving the lives of 669 mostly Jewish children. I say mostly because some children, their parents were very anti the Nazi regime, and it was any children whose parents were involved in being against the Nazis. And so in the meantime, I was researching about Alfred Battstorff, and I contacted him, and he sent me his memoirs, which I put in my book, Swanage Kindertransport and the Bournemouth Refugee Committee. And the thing is that a lot of children didn't just go via Trevor and Sir Nicholas Winton, but I think one of the other unsung heroes is Florence Nankyvel, because Florence Nankyvel, she was the person who started the very first Kindertransport, and I can relate to her and Trevor because they just did it. I'm a person that just does it. I don't mess about with committees, because the problem is it takes too long. You know, you go into the committee, shall we have this happening this weekend, or, you know, who do we need to contact? Oh, let's talk about it in a month's time. Well, by the time they get to do anything, it takes too long, and I'm a doer. I just want to get on with it. I don't want to talk about it. I just do it, and that's why I love Florence Nightingale, because she really had a heart for children, especially children who were suffering. And also Trevor Chadwick, you know, he wanted to get things done. He knew that those children needed to get out of Germany. Sorry, I'm picking something off the floor. And, you know, you couldn't mess about every month. Oh, well, what should we do? Shall we do this? Or what colour badge shall we have? Let's do it next week, or you can't do that. When you're dealing with something that needs to happen now, you just got to get on with it. And that's why I do love Florence Nightingale and Trevor Chadwick. And I think they're both what they call in Afro Gala on the genuine. Well, they were genuine, it's just that they weren't how you would see ordinary people, because, you know, they were just different, and they had to be different to do the job that they did. And also, my relative, Irma's uncle, was a child escort on the very first Kindertransport, as was Alfred, and as was Gary Saul. And the thing is, I love Gary and Carol Saul and their son Daniel, because I put my book on eBay, not because it's about selling it. I was trying to coerce people who knew or whose family were members of Kindertransport in Swanage. And Craig Saul contacted me. I sent the book, and he was really pleased. And so last May I organised an event where the different second generation Kinder came, and I met Paul Walder. He wanted me to help him. I didn't know how it would end up, which was having an event at the bandstand in Swanage with Craig gave his testimony, Paul Walder gave his, Len Ostrove, he gave his, and also Pastor Werner, and his father was SS and responsible for killing thousands of Jews. But Pastor Werner became a believer. Now he helps Holocaust survivors in Israel, and he's been to Ukraine as well. So it was a wonderful time. And then I remembered about the blue plaque, and I thought, well, while the oven's hot, I'm going to do this, because people are beginning to get interested. So I just got a plaque made, and then asked people to come, and spoke to the railway. They suggested people go on the train, which was a brilliant idea, because we really bonded quite well and we really enjoyed it. And then the day happened, and it was fantastic. We all seemed to really enjoy the train, you know, like how you would feel if your father or mother was on the Kindertransport going on the train, and then visiting the statue itself, gathering around the statue, and then people were giving testimonies, and I thought it was fantastic. And this is what we need to do. I mean, I thought a blue plaque would be very expensive, but you can get them very expensive, but I just chose to have a nice, but it's when you say plastic, it sounds awful, but it was a much more, well, it was a round one. We didn't need a huge thing, but it was not too expensive. And I thought, you have to do these things, because once you've bought them, it encourages the people to say, yes, you can put it up, because else they think they've got to buy it. I mean, in these processes of organising and having days, there are things that go wrong, and there are things that you worry about. But on the day, it was wonderful. To see the plaque up was absolutely fantastic. And it's historical, and I think we all need to do these things. If you've got a family that are Kindertransport, I mean, my main thing is that my relative was a child escort, but she ended up in Auschwitz after the second time she'd been on the Kindertransport, and her son actually ended up in Scotland because when his mum died, he hadn't got any parents at all then, so he needed to be on the Kindertransport. And, you know, one of the things that we forget is that if it hadn't been for Florence Nightingale, Trevor Chadwick, Nicholas Winton and all the other people involved with the Kindertransport, not just the organisers, but the people like Mazanka, who were child escorts. And on that first one, there is a number of people who were escorts, child escorts, but they'd done a lot of significant work in the background for that Kindertransport to happen. And this is why I wanted the blue plaque up to remember. And also Uncle Roger Brown, because he was quite pivotal. When I read in Alfred Batzdorf's memoirs that Roger Brown helped the boys who should have really gone into the Boy Scout huts, but the cold weather froze the pipes and they broke. And he had them in the house. And other boys came from London, apparently. They weren't there for a huge amount of time. While they were finding a boys' home and a girls' home, that was amazing. So I had to say thank you to him. I mean, a lot of people saw him being very eccentric in his later years and thought he was a bit of an oddball. In fact, they thought Trevor Chadwick was an oddball because he used to, you know, drink at the Black Swan and get drunk and all sorts of things. But you see, you don't know what he'd been through. You don't know what happened. And, you know, sometimes in life you would have wished that you could have perhaps saved more children. Felt guilty because you couldn't save everybody. But the thing is, at that time, nobody realised the extent of the Holocaust. And when I see Craig, when I see Daniel, when I see Paul Walder and see Jonathan Lampsky, if it hadn't been for those people, they wouldn't be here, and neither would their children. And so this is why I do believe you all need to write books about your family, document everything. And then, you know, get a blue plaque. I got mine from eBay, and I was shocked how beautiful it looked. To be honest, it was really lovely. So you could get a plaque and put it where your Kindertransport father or mother were, or get a plaque and put it in your railway station, or write a book, but document everything, because if you don't, when you've disappeared, all of those things will have been lost forever. You know, and say to people, you must write a book, and they think, oh, but you've got to write it down. If you don't make it into a book, at least document it, or get somebody in your family to document it, and then pass it down the generations, because else you lose all that history. And this is why I did what I did. I mean, it was pretty, you know, I don't like to do it in a committee. It takes too long. I like to do things myself the way that I want it to be. And basically that was just to get a blue plaque, ask people to come along, ask the railway, and things like that. And it happens because we do it. The main thing, as I say, why I really like Florence Nightingale, Trevor Chadwick, is that they did it. And we need to do it. Because if you don't, you lose all the information about your family member. And you forget that your life was saved because of ordinary people doing extraordinary things and giving their life or putting their life at risk to saving your father, grandfather, grandmother, grandfather, great-grandma. And in these line of generations, as I say, if you don't write about it, you don't put up a plaque. And it's not about what other people can do, it's about what you can do. If I can do it, You can. You know, I'm not any special person. I just have a thing in me to say, do it now. And I did. And it's important that we never forget. We never forget the 6 million Jewish people, or mostly Jewish people, because there were Roma, disabled, all sorts of people that didn't fit in with the Nazi regimes, you know, like the Aryan. They had people that they wanted to be perfect. The Aryan race, that's it. And if you didn't fit in with that, that's it. Ariti one Henry, as I say in Kenya, goodbye. And so I thought I'd share this video and hopefully put it on the Kindertransport dialogue. And don't just leave it for Amy Williams, because she's got loads of work to do. It starts with you. And it started with me right back in 2020 when I discovered that Trevor Chadwick had done what he had done, and I found out that my relative was a child escort, and because she went on 2 Kindertransport, she was murdered in Auschwitz. And yes, it's important. Anyway, I'm going to say cheerio, else I'll go on and on and on and on and on. Bye!